Hey guys, what's up? I just wanted to talk a little bit today about this book called Cashflow Quadrant. And it's written by Robert Kiyosaki. Most of you guys have probably heard of him. Wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is the book that most people know about him, the lessons that he learned from his rich dad and his poor dad, and what the differences were. But this one, he actually breaks down one of the concepts called the Cashflow Quadrant. And it's probably my favorite book. You may have heard some of these things if you've read E-Myth too, but the difference between a job and a business is really the big part that we're going to talk about. And Cody, if you could do me a favor and flip to that slide that we have on Cashflow Quadrant. It's
There we go.
working. All right, we have a slide. So here's what I want to talk about. This is the Cashflow Quadrant, and Robert Kiyosaki breaks it down in the book, and there's chapters upon chapters of each of these. And basically breaks down the fact that employees don't have a lot of like flexibility and freedom. They have a job, right? They have to report when they're told to report. They leave when they're told to leave. But they have something that people like, which is what?
Salary.
Yeah, comfort, salary, right? They know exactly what they're going to get paid. They think they're super safe in their role, right? They've got security, which is what a lot of them want. Maybe a false sense of security because when COVID happened and like 20 something or 30 something percent of the people were furloughed or laid off, then they didn't have the same security they thought they had anymore. Then you've got people who are an S, meaning they're self-employed, and typically they're still doing all the work themselves, but they decide when and where, and they get some other benefits. They get the benefit of write-offs and things like that because they're getting paid on a 1099 typically, and so they can write off things toward the business even though it's really just a job, right? And so Robert calls this you own a job versus having a job, right? You just own the job working for yourself, but you still have to do all the work. So there's not a lot of freedom in that. You get the flexibility maybe a little bit, which is funny because real estate agents fall under this S category, and we hear all the time about how they wanted the flexible schedule. And then they get into it and they're like, flexible as in working 70 to 80 hours a week if I want to make like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, right? Without any help. Then we shift over to the other side. And so the whole point of this book is like the goal is how do you get off the E to S side and into the B to I side, because that's where the rich live, right? That's the difference. So people on the E to S side, though, I feel like always think that they're a business when they're not, right? And so what happens is somebody that's an E, that's an employee that wants to be, we call them the wantrepreneur, right? They've got the drive, they're gonna do something at some point, but they haven't like found the way to make the leap yet. And here's what happens. They stay in their E because they need that security and they haven't put it aside like a runway, and then they do a side hustle, right? So big thing that we hear about all the time is a side hustle. So now they're an E and an S. So now they're working like ridiculous hours. They're maybe making a little bit of extra money besides what they were making as an employee, and that's like the start. And so I see people get stuck there where they just are afraid to make the leap, right? It happens all the time. So I've recruited a bunch of people into real estate, and part of it is like getting people to let go of the job. Like I've had to make them an inside salesperson in some cases and pay them hourly plus bonus to make phone calls to set appointments for other agents just so they could learn that part and still have money coming in. And they were willing to do that even though they were going to make about a quarter of what they would have made selling, and they had to make like 10 times as many phone calls, which is the part that most of the agents hate. So they had to do the worst part of the job just to maintain that stability of the E, right? So then we get them to take the leap, and now they're a full-time agent. They're commission only. They get the write-offs. They get all those things, but now they're racing and running to the next client and don't necessarily have the systems in place and whatever to be a B. So B is business owner. So when I think of this, you own a system, you have people that work for you. And when I think of business owner, it's like if I take days off or if I don't go in at all, nothing stops. Like things still get done, widgets still get made, services get provided, customers are still happy, revenue still comes in, profit is still made, right? For me, that's a business. So my thing is that's where people need to live, because you can ramp up then without putting in more hours. It's not just about like drive, run harder, whatever. You could actually have multiple businesses or multiple streams of income within one business that's going to generate enough for somebody to invest, right? And to invest at a level where you actually can make enough money out of it, and that you get better opportunities when you're an investor with enough money, right? Like, it's not the same opportunities that exist for somebody with $10,000 versus $100,000. And it's not the same opportunities for somebody with $100,000 to play in the $1 million sandbox when you have $1 million to invest. It's not the same when you have $1 million or 10 or 100, right? Every level comes with some new opportunities that you're left out of if you can't play in that sandbox yet. Doesn't matter which one you're in, but we got to get to the next one. And the way that we get to the next one is by spending a lot of time in the I and in the B section, right? But I've seen people waste decades in E and S thinking they're getting into B. And so what I loved when I heard you talk on the Elevate series, when we did that interview, remember when we did that interview with you and Rock, and you talked about this idea of buying a business. And I've done it before, but it's not really how I thought about it. Like, I had folded other businesses in under our real estate companies and things like that, and we'd paid them with money coming in from those agents over time over the next few years. So we had done it with the seller's money, and things just started clicking for me. And I'm like, this is the part I've been trying to help people make the leap from. Like, when we hire somebody out of an employee job into a sales job, my goal is to get them to be as fast as I can. And when you're like, why don't you just buy one? And I was like, that's it, right? Like, that's it. Why not just buy the passive income piece that I want, even if you are the operator initially, if you're up for that, right? If you're in an E role right now, like, you're an operator, but you're an operator for somebody else's business. So they're making all the money. So, and maybe even you've made the jump to the S, but you still don't have anybody working for you, and you've got no leverage, and it's going to take a lot longer to be able to get to the B role. So what if you could just buy a business that makes more than you make now in profit, right? So you could pay yourself already what you're making, even if you had to work in it full time, who cares? And if that's not what you're looking for, what if you could buy a business where you have enough money in the game, say it's $1 million to $2 million in revenue instead of 500,000. So there's enough skin in the game to pay a really good operator who might already work there, by the way. Right? There may be like a second in command that's capable of running the company, or maybe you have to go find them. But either way, there's a way to buy that business, and we talk about it in the unconventional acquisitions course. And I feel like this is like, stop like spinning around for 5 or 10 years on this E&S side and just getting stuck there and banging your head against the wall, and just go, boom, I'm a B now, right? And that's it. And then next year, like, add another B or add another stream of income. And then you go, wait, I've got like $300,000 or $400,000 a year that I can put into I, right? And now I can look at it very differently, because now I've got this big stream of income coming from multiple Bs. And then on top of that, I start creating all these other little streams of incomes on the investment side. And that's where you get wealth, right? That's where you get freedom. And that's the piece people are missing. I feel like you look at this and you're like, oh, you have to go from E to S to B to I. And in a way, a lot of people do, but there's a way to be a B like in 90 days. And that's what I want to see for people. And that's the idea behind the course. So check us out. Go take a look, courses.unconventionalacquisitions.com. You want to keep it simple, go to buyasmallbiz.com, and we'll post those links for you in the comments too. Cody, I know you had never seen this before, so I'm psyched that we were on this call, because this is one of my favorite books. But any thoughts in wrapping this up for us?
Yeah, I think my thought overall is we've gotten really comfortable as a society in buying houses, right? And getting a mortgage and using a mortgage to get the house that you want over time. I think in the future, we will look at buying a business the exact same way. A lot of people get scared about buying a business using future revenue or buying a business using what we call seller financing. But do you get scared when you put a mortgage on in order to have a house that never makes you money because you live in it, and it'll never break even, and you'll eventually just pay it off unless you sell the property? And that's what I think the beautiful part about this is this seller financing aspect of it allows you to stop guessing in startup land and start profiting in business owner land.
Love it. Awesome. Thanks, Cody. Sorry I droned on for so long, but I get fired up talking about this stuff. So we'll catch you guys soon. Go over and visit the website, see us on Facebook, and sign up for our newsletter. Take it easy.